This is Thumbing Through the Archives, a weekly radio show and podcast focusing on Michigan history, airing every Wednesday night from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on WMIC 660 AM and 95.3 FM. Also streaming in podcast form at our website, senlacbroadcasting.com. Now your hosts, Mike Gallagher, Nick Lean, and Erica Frisbee.
Once again to another episode of Thumbing Through the Archives, the podcast about the history, mysteries, and curiosities of Michigan. I'm Erica Frisbee. I am the Sanilac Broadcasting News Director, and with me, per usual,
I'm Nick. I'm the assistant manager here at Sanilac Broadcasting. You were going to go, Mike.
I was going to go, yeah. You threw me off last time, so now I have no idea what to expect anymore. But I'm Mike Gallagher. I'm the sports editor at the Sanilac County News.
Sorry, I was just really intently staring at you both, trying to figure out who's going to go first. Yeah, we've been having a weird standoff with our introductions, but
it's a fun little game.
Something to keep us entertained before the actual episode. But it's been a hot minute since we've recorded. Mm-hmm. We've been letting the John Norman Collins series replay, which is 8 parts, which gave us a well-deserved break, but also quite a long one.
Yeah, we could say a break for the holidays. Mm-hmm. Extended holidays.
Very
Through
extended.
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. Yes. Through Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
When will this be airing? How many? Well, I'm trying to think.
Probably in March by this point.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say probably through President's Day.
Okay.
So we're going to be going down a very different track today. There's not going to be a lot of history. This is more the mystery side of things.
So Erica came to me a couple weeks ago and said, do you want to do another murder mystery true crime, or do you want to do something a little less serious or dark? And I said, oh, God, please, the less serious one. Give us a break.
Yeah.
So I'm particularly excited for the more lighthearted tone of this. Nothing against the true crime stuff. I do love that.
No, it is.
I need a second.
It is quite a lot. It's, again, if it bleeds, it leads.
You know, my daughter Freya has Mr. Downs.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where he lets them, they get assigned a state and they have to pick like a true news article and do a report on it out of that state. It's like something he does every week. And all these girls, like Freya and all of her friends, do these like horribly grisly true crime, like serial killers and murder mysteries, bodies found in chest freezers. So it was kind of neat. She's old enough. She's almost 13. So I was like, here's my serial killer encyclopedia from when I was 13.
Now I can pass it along to you.
Now I can pass it on to you. And just thought that was funny. Thought you'd appreciate that.
I do appreciate that. But today we're going completely... Who knows if there's any fact to this? This may all be technically fiction, is how off the beaten path we're going today.
Before we get into this, I think we should thank Nick for getting the show onto Spotify.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we
you're
should
so
that.
right.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people have been listening to it now that it's on Spotify.
Good.
Been getting a lot of good feedback. So thank you, Nick.
It's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming.
It's just a lot easier to access that way.
So much easier.
Yeah. Like it's credit on building the new website as well, but it's still just easier to find stuff through Spotify. So
that's what made it a lot easier to get set up for us was, we revamped the website. It's a lot more modern, both for the user on the front end and for us on the backside, putting in podcast episodes and streaming. It's a lot more streamlined. So that made it a lot easier to get things on these platforms. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I've been getting a lot of good feedback about it being on Spotify. Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I need to share the Apple Podcast link. I haven't yet, just because of the fact that when I first got it, it was only populating the last 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. It's fixed itself by now. I just haven't gotten on it yet.
But if you just search Thumbing Through the Archives, it's the first thing that comes up too.
Yep, very cool. And we're hoping to do some web exclusive things as well now that we have Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Mm-hmm. So keep your ear out for that one. But good call, Mike. I don't know how I completely forgot the fact that it's on Spotify. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we've talked about technically in the introduction, like the old introduction of the show, but we're going to be talking about the Dogman this episode, the Michigan Dogman.
I like how you lead off by being like, it might be true. In my head, it's just like a crazy urban legend.
For me, it's not true whatsoever, but some people
swear by it.
Kind of takes the fun out of it if you don't believe it a little bit.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
we have to give it a chance.
Oh, I've seen that one. The one with the green font. I have seen like in Michigan welcome centers and stuff, and little touristy shops.
I just passed over, Mike, if you wanted to grab the other one, but there's an author named Linda Godfrey who kind of has made it her life's mission to prove that werewolves exist in North America. And that includes the Beast of Bray Road and the Michigan Dogman.
So she's based out of Wisconsin, according to this book.
Yes.
Is Dogman a thumb thing or a Michigan thing?
It's a Michigan thing.
Okay.
It's more of a northern Michigan thing, if we're being completely honest.
We've talked about this many times on the show, like with urban legends, how every community has a version of it that you don't realize until you become more well-versed in the world and hear things as you grow up, that it's just a localized version of a much broader urban legend. I remember in like 5th or 6th grade, people talking about seeing a Dogman in the woods by Forester, north of Port Sanilac. And that was just... kids would talk about it.
Do you happen to remember what year that was?
Let's see. It would have been like 98, 99.
If it ended in 97,
kids were talking
then...
about it. Wow.
Pretty interesting that it was also in Forester, you said, where kind of...
Yeah, it would have been...
all of the ghosts of Sanilac County kind of hang out.
Because it's a creepy little town.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, there's a werewolf there as well.
So it's our very own Michigan cryptid.
Yes.
Very exciting.
It is definitely something. So, who's afraid of the big bad wolf? As it turns out, many of our ancestors were. It's an understandable fear, even today, even as Michigan's wolf population struggles to reach 700 in the Upper Peninsula. There is a fear of wolves and what they can do to livestock. It's this fear, as well as several past government bounty and trapping programs, that nearly wiped out the state's wolf population by the mid-1970s. Extermination efforts started back as early as the first settlers in Michigan touched down, much to the distress of the native Anishinaabe nations, who to this day call wolves the one put here by the all-loving spirit to show us the way. To the people of the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi tribes, wolves are a brother species with a traditional belief dictating that whatever happens to one species will happen to the other. As such, it's really little surprise that the paths of wolves and humans cross in legend and creation myth. What is surprising, however, is the emergence of the Dogman. So, it's April Fool's Day, 1987, when then 28-year-old production manager and DJ Steve Cook, working at the Traverse City radio station WTCM-FM 103.5, played a song about the Dogman, though song may be too generous. To give you an idea, I'm going to be performing the song for you in a second, and I'm not going to be singing.
Oh.
Well, that's partially because that's...
Is it just a guy talking over?
It's just a guy talking over.
Folk music?
Yeah. So, the lyrics go like this. A cool summer morning in early June is when the legend began, at a nameless logging camp in Wexford County where the Manistee River ran. 11 lumberjacks near the Garland Swamp found an animal they thought was a dog. In a playful mood, they chased it around till it ran inside a hollow log. A logger named Johnson grabbed him a stick and poked around inside. Then the thing let out an unearthly scream and came out and stood upright. None of those men ever said very much about what ever happened then. They just packed up their belongings and left that night, were never heard from again. It was then 10 years later, in 97, when a farmer near Buckley was found. Slumped over his plow, his heart has stopped. There were dog tracks all around. 7 years passed with the turn of the century. They say a crazy old widow had a dream. of dogs that circled her house at night that walked like men and screamed. In 1917, a sheriff who was out walking found a driverless wagon and tracks in the dust like wolves had been a-stalkin'. Near the roadside, a 4-horse team lay dead with their eyes open wide. When the vet finished his examination, he said it looked like they died of fright. In 1937, a schooner captain said several crew members had reported a pack of wild dogs roaming Bowers Harbor. His story was never reported. In 1957, a man of the cloth found claw marks on the old church door. The newspaper said they were made by a dog he had had been 7'4". In 1967, a vanload of hippies told a park ranger named Quinlan they'd been awakened in the night by a scratch at the window. There was a dogman looking in and grinning. In 1977, there were screams in the night near the village of Bel Air. Could have been a bobcat, could have been the wind. Nobody looked up there. Then in the summer of 1987, near Luther, it happened again. At a cabin in the woods, it looked like maybe someone had tried to break in. There were cuts around the doors that could have only been made by very sharp teeth and claws. He didn't wear shoes because he didn't have feet. He walked on just 2 paws. So far this year, no stories have appeared. Had the dogmen gone away? Had they disappeared? Soon enough, I guess we'll know, because this is the time to fear. For another 10 years has come around, the 7th year is here, and somewhere in the Northwoods darkness, a creature walks upright, and the best advice you may get is to never go out at night.
When did you say that song?
So I just read the updated version, to be clear. It was originally done in 1987.
But then they updated it for 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it in 2007?
I don't know if they updated it for 2007. The most up-to-date version looks like through 1997.
Okay.
So this was played as an April Fool's Day prank.
Yes.
And what was the response to it?
So people started calling in with reports of their own, even though, according to Cook, like, the creature who had the ability to scare people to death, including like horses and an old man, he made it all up.
Right.
Like, he admitted to it that all of these incidents, like the hippies, the priest, the man dying at his plow, all of those things were fake.
It's just a story.
Just a story.
Yeah.
It was composed in about an hour using a $99 Casio keyboard, Cook said via email to the Traverse City Eagle newspaper. It was literally one of scores of radio bits we produced over the years, designed to play for one day, and disappeared. Then he started to get the calls. Turns out, there was some perceived fact to that fiction. A man called to say that he saw the Dogman when he was 17, back in 1938. Someone else said 2 fishermen saw the Dogman in 1967, swimming towards them as they fished along the Manistee River. In both cases, an altercation happened between man and creature. Robert Fortnier, 68 years old in 1987, reported that he had been attacked by 5 wild dogs, with the biggest dog trying to tear out his throat, prompting him to shoot it. As the 4 other dogs scampered away, the big one, the leader, instead of retreating with the wound, instead stood on its hind legs and glared at him, he told the Grand Rapids Press. Meanwhile, the 2 fishermen had let the creature get too close, having thought it was one of the men's hunting dogs, but then realizing in fear almost too late that the dog was paddling towards them with human arms and a front crawl swim style. Taking their oars, they swung at and kept the creature at bay until it retreated, the 2 men embarrassed and swearing to tell no one that they almost became dog food. Then came the attack at Luther Cabin in early July of 1987, chillingly in time with the song's insistence that the dogmen are only sighted every 10 years, preferably a year ending in 7. The village of Luther, located about 65 miles south of Traverse City, today stands at 355 people strong, and given the surprise popularity of Steve Cook's song across his station's 26-county listening reach, it's possible the village's population had heard about the Dogman just recently. However, when the incident was first reported to the DNR officers at the Baldwin Field office, the cabin owners thought it had been a bear attacking their cabin. Something had ripped into the window screen and molding around a door and window, causing major damage as it seemingly attempted to get inside. However, it wasn't a bear, concluded officers after inspecting the paw prints around the cabin and on a window. This was a dog's doing. They never did catch the dog, but the legend caught on like wildfire, especially given the song had alluded to a similar incident, when a priest found claw marks high up on the church's door. How high up? About 7 feet, 4 inches. Going through past articles, I couldn't find anything about how high up the scratches on the Luther cabin were, nor could I find the exact date of the attack, though I was able to narrow it down to have probably occurred before Friday, July 10th, which is when the DNR officers did their inspection of the cabin. Still, it is in these bit of story gaps that makes way for legend, as evidence as my finding other accounting of the Luther legend in a 2008 MLive opinion piece. According to this telling, sheriff's deputies received a call in 1987 from a frantic SUV driver reporting a large wolf coming at him on its hind legs. When officers arrived at the scene, the man was gone, but his car remained, marred with teeth marks and more paw prints. This retelling runs into a few issues. The lack of documentation from the time, for one, and the presence of a phone, for another. Given that cell phones were still catching on in 1987, despite the first cell phone call ever happening in 1973, this hapless driver either had to have $10,000 in today's money to fork over for a Motorola brick mobile phone, or maybe he had a car phone installed in his SUV for half the price.
The old bag phones.
Yeah, either way, neither did him much help in this case, apparently. Or, more likely, he just did not exist, and somebody is trying to make a scary story scarier. But picking apart some hearsay isn't really getting to the crux of the answer, is it? It doesn't really answer whether the Dogman is true flesh and blood or a pure figment of the imagination, and that's because the Dogman legend is built on both. So, according to the 2022 update of the DNR Michigan Wolf Management Plan, wolves have been in the Great Lakes area since the melting of the last glacier, with evidence of wolves being found in every county across the state. Such prevalence and presence of the wolf population can be seen in the creation myths of the Anishinaabe people, where the wolf and his brother, a half-man, half-spirit, were told by the creator to travel the world and name its wonders together, only to have them split at the journey's end. Separating them, the creator tells them, "From this day on, you are to separate and go different ways. What happens to one of you will also happen to the other. You will be feared by some, respected by others, but misunderstood by all of the people who will come to inhabit these lands." This creation myth, which also explains why the wolf howls, mostly out of sorrow for being separated from his best friend, probably ring all too true with the tribespeople of Michigan, who saw both their population and the wolves suffer upon the arrival of European settlers. Part of this is because in Europe, wolves were a big problem. So European settlers always have brought legends of monsters with them into the New World, as evidenced as such panics as the Salem witch trials and the New England vampire scare. However, whereas witches seem more of the UK's offering and vampires stir from East European tales, werewolves seem to have been the French settlers' poison of choice when it came to explaining what goes bump in the night. It is really interesting if you just go through like every area and kind of like divide up what people know most for scary things. In France, the loup-garou, the werewolf, big time monster.
What would be the biggest monster in our area?
Dogman?
Dogman.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot would be a good one.
The dwarf. Does that count?
The Nain Rouge.
Yeah.
The red dwarf. Yeah, that would possibly count.
I think Bigfoot just wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's really a monster.
No. He's just technically a cryptid.
Yeah.
So, with many French beliefs coming to the Great Lakes by way of Canadian fur traders from Quebec and other explorers, so too did the fear of wolves compound. Fueled by European wolf mythology, fairy tales, and religious beliefs, along with the views that wolves were incompatible with human civilization, settlers would tell their children and each other to keep an eye out for the loup-garou. There are 2 different Michigan legends of the loup-garou, both of which can be found in a now out-of-print book, Legends of Detroit by Mary Carolyn Hamlin, published back in 1883.
Wow.
Yeah.
That goes back a ways, huh?
Yeah. So the first story, that of Genevieve, the nun of St. Clair, stems from before Antoine de la Motte Cadillac founding of Detroit, with the story mentioning a 1680 expedition to found Fort St. Joseph, a fort founded in 1686 near present-day Fort Gratiot.
I can't do French. I don't have the... I feel so cringy trying to sound...
You sound like Pepe Le Pew or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It was this expedition that the tale's villain supposedly traveled with to Grosse Pointe, the story's setting. So, the story goes from the 1883 book. A forest runner, fur trader, explorer, Renaissance man of the woods from Canada named Jean Parent was a dour man who had lost his wife and parents before his journey to Michigan. He had one solace in his life on the shores of Lake St. Clair, and that was his daughter Genevieve. Sweet and cheerful, happy but shy, Genevieve wanted nothing more than to devote herself to God and to become a nun. When she was old enough, most imagined her to be between 16 and 18, she wrote to her aunt, a mother superior, asking to be accepted as a nun in her convent. The convent, whether it was located in modern-day Three Rivers, Michigan, or in the town of Three Rivers, Quebec, Canada, either way, it was a long way from Grosse Pointe, and the postal service was rudimentary at best, so Genevieve found herself posting the letter in spring and still waiting for an answer when fall came that year. While she had been waiting, however, Genevieve had caught the eye of one Jacques Morand, the explorer who allegedly was part of Duluth's expedition party. No matter how many times Genevieve rejected him, Jacques persisted. Thinking that he would understand why she was rejecting him, Genevieve confessed that she wanted to become a nun and was waiting for that answer, but this resolution on her part only inflamed his wish to possess her either by fair or foul means. In his desperation, he went to the woods, the darkest part of the forest, untenanted save by the ghost of gloom, to seek out the help of, quote, an old Indian witch. While it's unclear if she was first deemed a witch for practicing her cultural beliefs which clashed with European traditions, or if it's just because she's dealing with the ghost of gloom or whatever. They don't exactly say why she's a witch, but Hamlin is sure to tell us that it only cost Jacques his soul for the woman to assist. And so the woman gave him the power to transform himself into a werewolf so that he could more easily carry Genevieve off. And then she disappears from the story like the wolf's howl in the empty night air. While Jacques busied himself for future misdeeds, Genevieve soothed her impatient soul by constructing an altar to St. Mary on the shores of Grosse Pointe, not too far from an already existing altar associated with Quebec's Notre Dame de... I'm not pronouncing that. Bonascure? Bonascure.
Sure.
Sure. If anybody can speak French, I apologize. So, the existing altar was nestled in the woods. She would spend her time between the two places, praying and fasting and feeling as if the Virgin Mother's eyes were watching over her when her dearly departed mother was unable. It is no wonder then that when she received word that she was accepted and would be a nun the following spring, she immediately headed to the altars to give her thanks. She was on her way to see the Virgin Mary when Jacques, already transformed into his werewolf form, sprung out at Genevieve as she traveled the path. And then he cowered, the crucifix in her hand enough to send his devil-cursed frame into shivers. In this moment of hesitancy, Genevieve fled, taking off toward the altar on the shore, luckily outpacing her predator, feeling the weight of his gleaming eyes and fiery breath bearing down on her as she ran. Her strength began to fail as she ran, using the last of her breath to cry out to Mother Mary to spare her, and then she fainted. His prey unconscious, it should have been an easy task for Jacques, but as he left for Genevieve, towards the altar and onto the rocks surrounding it, he found himself rooted, transformed once more, but not into a beast or a man, but a rock. Those who see the rock and know the story still whisper about the werewolf's attempted kidnapping, though no one knows if that rock can still be found along the shore. No one knows what became of Genevieve after that either. She fades into the story's backdrop as well, perhaps even more sure of her vocation as a nun after such a miracle was performed on her behalf, or perhaps leaving for the convent not to soothe her soul and fulfill her purpose, but to escape the terror and teeth that she could still see whenever she closed her eyes or holds the crucifix just so. We do not know. We only know of the werewolf in the rock. And that's the first story.
So this is a book.
Yes.
That's 140 years old.
Some years old, yeah.
142.
This book has been around for a while, then depending on when the stories actually were collected. But considering the fact that in Dogman lore, the earliest that they see him is in the 1800s, 1887, I believe it is. Meanwhile, here it's claiming that back in the 1600s, werewolves were, if not a common thing, it wasn't apparently an unusual thing to ask the local witch doctor to turn you into.
Do we know, was this book presented as a chronicle of something that allegedly happened, or was it? It's
more like just legends that the old French settlers and that the author was told when she was growing up, kind of like fairy tales.
I see. So that's but one story of a few in this book. It's like a collection. Gotcha.
Yes.
You did say that now that I'm thinking about it. In my head, I was thinking like a big sprawling Frankenstein.
No, that would be cool though. That would be very cool. It seems
like it when you're summarizing it. But
I was going to say, they do like the flowery language and everything like that. So, what of the other werewolf, and what on earth does this have to do with the Dogman? This sets up a precedence, a pattern, a history. Though Steve Cook made up the Dogman, so it were, reasons why it may have been so easy to believe that the Dogman is a state cryptid is because there has been, even if we didn't know it until now, there's been an underlying predisposition to werewolf tales and thinking of wolfish things in the night.
In Michigan, especially.
Yeah. All the way back to the French explorers and everything like that, which is, I don't know, kind of cool.
Yeah.
It also helps that Steve Cook called to the kind of state mythology that we have going on. Because, for instance, Paul Bunyan, lumberjacks and everything like that. He mentioned that. So, of course, everybody was like, yeah, that's fact. Because there were lumberjacks in Michigan. But literally, if you swapped out the lumberjacks he mentions with the fur traders, you would have Jean Parent from the fairy tale. And then the people that run into the Dogman you would have as the victims, so on and so forth.
Right. My first thought, before you go any further, my first initial reaction is that a lot of people, myself included, have frightening stories with dogs or creatures in the woods that they encounter, and memories are hazy. There's a lot going on. It's scary. Mine was when I was a little boy in the woods and there was a stray dog.
Aww.
But in my head, it seemed a lot scarier than it probably was. And I think people hear something like Steve Cook's song/poem and latch onto that as a rational explanation or as, giving meaning to something that has become greater than what it actually was in people's heads, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it does.
Yeah.
That's my take, but, it may change as we hear more of these stories. It's certainly interesting that the theme of werewolves and dogmen, I guess, is prevalent throughout Michigan for the last 150 or so years.
Even longer, depending on the settlers, which we know for a fact just based on stories that came out of France and also Quebec and more. There were wolf issues that French settlers had been dealing with and would know about and would just be predisposed to be like, listen, we get that the Native Americans say that they're the brother species, but in our neck of the woods,
they're scary.
Yeah.
And mean.
So we're just going to head this off immediately. Mike, were you going to say something?
Well, I think the guy who called in that saw the Wolfman in 1938, or what, that's a long amount of time.
True.
Where his memory probably did deceive him a little bit. But it is kind of interesting, too, that these people saw this creature and they just kept it to themselves until they heard the song about the Dogman. And, it was kind of like a moment where they're like, oh, that
maybe I'm not
that
crazy.
Sounds like something I actually saw. Yeah. Because I guess I don't know what I would do in that situation. If I thought I saw a Dogman, I don't know if I would tell people. I don't know, because you would think that people wouldn't believe you. So what?
I was gonna say maybe you would tell one or two people, the people that you trust very much and know you and wouldn't call you crazy.
Right. But the two fishermen, they kept it to themselves. They didn't tell anybody.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know what I would do in that situation.
Or would you just convince yourself that there was a more rational explanation for it?
I think that's what I would just be like, that was just a dog. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if it was like a UFO or Bigfoot? You know?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think like those are more like
common.
Yeah,
and they seem
believable.
Right, people are less likely to call you crazy if you are like, yeah, I think I saw a UFO.
Yeah,
versus a dog walking upright.
Yeah,
right. Because I feel like there's more logical explanations for a Dogman than there is for a
That's
UFO.
True. Yep.
Because like even the house where there was the paw prints, but it was at 7 foot. Like I feel like a dog could probably jump that high, right?
That,
or
and also like
not.
the original report, like because the 7'4" thing was only in the song.
Okay.
Oh.
So it like the scratch marks could have been like knee height.
You did say you looked to try to determine if there was any indication in news articles of, but they didn't specify the height.
No. To be fair, it was around the molding at the window and stuff like that. So like presumably, but even so, like when they're on their hind legs, depending on the dog, and wolves are much bigger than dogs.
Was that in an area where wolves?
Not Upper Peninsula, but Lower Peninsula.
Could have been.
Could have been.
I think the hind legs thing kind of throws everything off, though. Because if I saw that would definitely scare me.
I was gonna say, I'm just picturing a dog walking upright, and I don't like it.
No,
with like a ripped upper torso.
Yeah. I wouldn't have an explanation for that.
So, speaking of patterns, this next tale is going to seem a little bit familiar, even if you've never heard of it, because you have heard of fairy tales with similar structures. Red Riding Hood, for instance, who encountered the wolf en route to her destination. The heroine being a young and fair maiden in distress, being saved by a powerful maternal force, though I'm sure Genevieve would have preferred a traditional Cinderella experience rather than what she had to deal with. And no mother, but a sad, dour father who adores his beautiful daughter and wants the best for her. These tropes are almost exactly repeated in The Tale of Archange and The Werewolf of Grosse Pointe, a tale that happens perhaps a half-century after the first, with Arthur Hamlin only saying that the story took place many years before Commodore Alexander Grant of the British Navy settled in his castle at Grosse Pointe around 1775 or so. While that is more specific than Once Upon a Time, it does take some extra digging to determine that the story most likely arose from the 1740s or 50s, as French farmers settled along the Detroit River before leaving for their Grosse Pointe farms in the 1760s, following the French surrender of Detroit to the British around that time. Perhaps the timing really doesn't matter because there is no mention of the werewolf of St. Clair, but only childhood tales that the father figure had heard before and fears now. But again, as always, I'm getting ahead of myself. The story begins, as it usually does, with a father and his child. Fur trapper Simonet, a widower described as a strong, hardy man with a sunburnt face and brawny arms hardened by toil and exposure, was able to soften his rough manners while raising his daughter Archange, his small but beautiful flower. The anxiety of single parenthood made Simonet perhaps spoil his daughter, ensuring that she had only the softest bare skin to keep her warm in the harsh winters and the brightest feathers for her hair, but he also passed all of his knowledge to her, teaching her how to skin beaver, muskrat, and deer for their pelts, how to stretch and dry them for their livelihood. From the women of the village, she learned and perfected recipes for whitefish, pickerel, and sucking pig, dishes that her father would boast about to anyone that would listen. Despite being surrounded by trees and forests, she was a normal young woman, plaiting straw braids for hats for herself and for market, knitting socks and drying corn to sell so she could afford the various pretty trinkets and cosmetics her Parisian counterparts enjoyed. As such, Simonet was unsurprised when Archange grew into a spitting image of her mother. Her eyes dark, her long tresses black and sleek, her voice sweet, nor was he surprised when she was the most popular young woman at corn huskings and dances in the village. And so he was not surprised when suitors began to pursue Archange. Of the village's young men, one stood out to her, a quiet and hard-working young farmer named Pierre Lafontaine, who wooed her, and only after she returned his affection did he dare ask Simonet for his blessing. It was happily given, and a year or so of wedding preparations began, including Pierre building them a home not too far from the old fur trapper, about a mile away. Then, one day, as the girl returned home from a visit with her boyfriend, a noise startled her from the woods, and when she saw what it was, she rushed headlong into her father's arms, who too saw the beast that had frightened her daughter so. It was the loup-garou, and its presence troubled Simonet even as he managed to calm his daughter. He spent the rest of the night puffing at his pipe, ruminating on the old legends and traditions of his youth of the missing children and maidens that had been destroyed by the ravenous beast. This did not bode well. Still, as the wedding day approached, the bride dared to wander out of her home in her wedding dress to gather herself a bouquet from the nearby wildflowers. Alas, the werewolf was there to meet her once more, but rather than at first terrorizing, he seemed to attempt humanity, with a tale describing him as dressed up as a Parisian dandy, so very fancy, very almost gaudy kind of fashion, giving the woman a lovesick leer when she did not immediately flee. But flee she did, and once more was she able to outrun it. But her luck did not hold out a third time when, after her wedding ceremony, she was stolen from her husband's arms by the loup-garou, who then dashed into the woods with his prize. Despite following the beast, the husband's attempts were in vain, and Pierre returned to the village half-crazed with grief and clutching a piece of his wife's white dress. There were no sightings of the loup-garou for another year, and Pierre lapsed into silence, dead to the outside world. However, he seemed to come back to himself as preparations for his own sister's wedding began. But on the night of the wedding feast, instead of enjoying the festivities, Pierre headed out into the woods. An hour later, and partygoers heard howling and yelling, and they poked their heads out of the party hall to see the hubbub. They did not expect to see Pierre hot on the heels of the monstrous beast with black fur and long fangs, whose looping gait switched from 4 to 2 legs with ease. Whatever took him away from the madman on his tail faster. As the chase continued, Pierre drove the beast to the edge of the lake, all but daring the monster to choose the water or a vengeful death. Indeed, perhaps to help aid the loup-garou, or as an act of divine providence and deus ex machina, a giant catfish sprung from the water, swallowing the beast and disappearing beneath the waves, leaving Pierre and the partygoers to marvel and curse the loup-garou once more. Similar tales, and maybe even a little bit silly, but one could argue that it's the first sighting in history of a cryptid that remains in the minds of many Michiganders over the years, be it for silly or spooky reasons.
Are these werewolves or just...
Werewolves.
So they're humans who turn into wolves?
At least the first one for sure is, and then the second one may be more closely to what we think of as a Dogman, because it doesn't seem as if he changed / had an alternate identity or anything like that. So
It seems like a dog version of like Bigfoot or... I like that it dressed up.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best part of the story. It's like wearing clothes, trying to impress her. So when was that one from?
That one was from the 1740s or 50s. Wow. So first one was from the 1600s. Next one was from the 1700s. And then, according to Cook, there have been sightings since the 1800s of the Dogman and stuff like that, which technically Linda Godfrey would probably be the actual expert on the Michigan Dogman. We currently have 2 of 3 of her books about the subject.
The title of this book is misleading.
Yes.
But a small fraction of the book is actually about
the Dogman,
the Michigan Dogman, but there's information about them all over the country, the Midwest.
Has the Michigan Dogman ever been photographed? Like, since we talked about Bigfoot, like...
Yes and no.
There's at least some, whether you want to call it evidence or not, of Bigfoot. I mean... There
was a fabricated movie called The Gable Film that showed a Dogman attack.
Okay.
I was going to say, they used a ghillie suit to get the main furriness.
The look of the Dogman.
Yeah.
Right.
And also just made sure that things were fast and
jumbled.
there was the Gable film, which showed the attack, and then there was the sequel to the Gable film, which had, I think they made prop organs because there was a murder scene.
So it's not an actual photo.
It's not an actual sighting, no.
It's a recreation.
We should make one. Like a trail cam photo.
Put it up in Forester, boys.
Yeah.
That's where they all are.
That'll be the most believable.
Yeah. We could hang out in the Minden City swamp for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would probably be right up their alley.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're going Dogman hunting, boys.
I guess so.
We're going to make our own, though.
Right. Yeah. We just need to find somebody that's 7 feet tall.
We'll find someone. It'll be like the what was that famous Bigfoot video called? Or like the Nessie photo.
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
there's the famous Bigfoot one that the hunters took.
The classic one where he's like in the walking
looking over, and
Yeah.
anytime you see it on TV, it freezes when he looks over
Yeah.
and zooms in on his face.
Yeah.
Ours will be that, but for the Dogman.
For the Dogman. Will our Dogman be well dressed? Or?
Good question, Mike.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
If we're going historically accurate, Dogman.
I think the fact that he was well dressed kind of separates him from werewolves. Because when you think of werewolves, when they change from a man into a wolf, all their clothes get ripped off.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So this is a guy. He
This is like
a dog man. He doesn't change.
Correct. That was my thought, in that he's maybe a little like primitive in his thought and like kind of dumb, and also like animalistic and just trying to look human desperately so he can get this beautiful woman.
Right.
Great story.
Great story. Yeah, I tell you these stories to show you how the French-European influence changed the wolf from a trusted companion to a feared monster in the Michigan lexicon. But what of the recent sightings, the one that fills up 3 books by Linda Godfrey on American werewolves and creatures similar to them? There are admittedly a few of them, and while some will inevitably be chalked up to another animal or a trick of the light, perhaps it's more than just psychology at play when one sees a Dogman for themselves. There will be a few that turn out to be hoaxes, like the Gable film, which purportedly shows a Dogman attack, and then there will be a few, barring photographic evidence, that will remain inexplicable.
The Gable film, were they presenting that as an actual Dogman sighting? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
were they?
Okay.
Yeah. Steve Cook initially presented it as, like, not as a hoax, but as like, oh, shoot, we caught the Dogman.
Oh, I thought it was just like a reenactment.
Right.
No.
So when they were presenting it as an actual Dogman sighting. Okay.
Yes.
How did people find out that it wasn't? Like,
Steve admitted to it.
oh, okay. He probably had to after people
After they realized that it was the ghillie suit. Yeah.
Or people started like
calling him.
Yeah. Being like, I've seen this too.
Yeah.
Boy, that would be
For
satisfying.
public safety reasons, he probably had to.
And to just be like, guys.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Does that make me a bad person? Be like, let it go on a little while and then be like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Just would make you like one of those fun people who would do hoaxes back in the day.
Yeah.
You would have loved the whole Orson Welles War of the World thing.
Yep.
Honestly, the real question is the Dogman real to you? Because that question will make all the difference in the world. And that's the end of my script. It's kind of lighter subject, lighter script, but part of the reason why I didn't go into all of the different, because there are quite a few. Like we could literally pluck and grab any one of those stories and read it to each other right now. But for the most part, most of them kind of boil down to, I was out in the woods late at night. I heard something, turned around, saw something that was too big to be a coyote, too small to be a bear, didn't act like a bear, seemed kind of doggish, but not quite sure.
Were there any that were like somewhat local? Like to the thumb-ish area, or?
The closest that we get, at least that Linda Godfrey records, is like Bay region.
Okay.
So I think Bay County is one of the closest ones, but unfortunately our Forester sightings did not make it.
I feel like people just aren't looking is the problem.
Yeah. Well, now they'll be looking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially once our video hits.
Yeah.
So I think that something that's interesting is like whether it was conscious or not, quote unquote, civilized society kind of like villainizing wolves and creating these stories that are over the course of hundreds of years making people hate wolves and be indifferent to their being driven to extinction in some areas. And there's something to be said there that is probably overlooked with the history of werewolf stories.
Oh, yeah. There's so many different reasons and causes for werewolf stories. Like, for instance, one werewolf story got started up in Germany just because it was their only way to explain a serial killer at the time. That was just the only way they could wrap around somebody so blatantly and indiscriminately, like, picking people off. So werewolves have always been kind of like, werewolves and wolves have just kind of been scapegoats in some way, shape, or form for maladies and ills of society.
Yeah, I think they get a bad rap.
Oh, 100%.
Wolves do.
I mean, literally, we grew up in Little Red Riding Hood.
Right.
And Three Little Pigs, both of which have a big bad wolf.
Yeah, I think about, like, if that sort of thing is applied to any other animal that would be considered a predator to livestock or that might have a threat to somebody's livelihood, like bears, maybe. I can think of, like, Goldilocks, but it's not like
the bears
werewolf story.
I was going to say the bears are civilized and eating porridge.
Right. Right. Tells you how much I remember that story.
Yeah.
A bit of me is like...
She was a bad guy, wasn't she?
Right,
oh,
she
yeah.
was, yeah.
She broke in.
Right.
Yeah.
She broke in. She was squatting.
Well, I like the idea of the radio station doing an April Fool's prank. I think, unfortunately, we're past the time where a radio station could pull something off like that. But if you guys were to do something like that, what do you think you would try and do? Like, it would have to be something that would be somewhat believable. And I think Cook's was believable because he didn't put a lot of time into it, but it seemed like a well thought out.
He at least put enough time into, like, thinking of different scenarios
Writing
and
the
stuff like
story
that.
And the lyrics.
Right.
When he said it took an hour, I think he meant like the production of the song.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really good question, Mike. And I think that we could, with integration of like social media and other forms of media than just radio where we can have pictures and videos, we could really convince people that something happened.
Yeah. I think it's also funny. It just reminded me that Eddie Fury's first day at the radio station here was April Fool's Day.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty. I think that's kind of a. I don't think people thought that was a prank at the time, but it was kind of funny.
If his last day, one day, isn't also April Fool's and we did him wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Not that I'm planning Eddie's retirement anytime soon, because Eddie deserves to stay here for as long as he wants. But, like, let's be honest, he's got to go out on April Fool's Day again.
I was just thinking of something we could do, like, on the morning show on April Fool's to, I don't know, to play on Eddie's first day being April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
It's Eddie's first day all over again.
Right.
I don't know if you guys remember this. Nick, maybe you would. A few years ago, the Sanilac County News ran a April Fool's Day prank story.
I don't remember that. No.
And it was
What was
not
about?
well received.
Really?
Remind me what
People
it was
think
about.
it was like juvenile and
Well, it was written by Eric Levine.
Oh, no.
And it had like a playful tone to it, but it personally, I think he wrote it too professionally that it didn't come off as a joke. But the story was that a candy factory was coming to Sandusky.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that because people got really excited about the jobs.
Yeah, the story said that it was going to provide like 100 jobs for the city of Sandusky and everything. And like the headline and the photo that went with it and the fact that it was the paper came out on April Fool's Day.
there's so many better things. I'm not
like, I think it was a good idea.
It was well intentioned.
It just wasn't well executed. Like, I think you have to make it more clear that you're joking.
Right. Or have it be something so out there and fantastical that...
Yeah. But I'm sure there's more instances of that as well.
Oh,
you know, in the past where the local newspaper put a story on the front page on April Fool's Day and whether it was well received or poorly received. I know this one was poorly received, but
Yeah.
I'll have to find that one, because to me it was, just by looking at it, it was pretty clear that it was an April Fool's Day. But once you started reading the story, like, it was written too well that it made you think, like, oh,
people
maybe.
see headlines.
It's kind of amazing
read
sometimes what people will believe, because like when I was at the Echo in college, we also did an April Fool's edition, and we said Miranda Cosgrove was going to be the commencement speaker.
See, that's believable enough, I think.
Well, the thing is, we made sure that it wasn't believable enough because we photoshopped her like as awful as we could onto
Okay.
like the last commencement speaker's
Okay.
body, and then like her planned speech was literally just the lyrics to like the iCarly theme song.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good.
But people were still like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for Miranda Cosgrove to come in."
They just see the headline,
Yeah.
and then it word of mouth
Yeah,
travels, and
yeah.
you see it a lot on social media too. Like there will
yeah.
be a headline that is something way out there or ridiculous, and it gets shared, and people don't open the article and read it.
Yeah.
Great, like, way to get clicks. But
Yeah.
We
We-
should do that more.
we really should.
We should do a pranks episode.
Oh man, there's probably plenty of Michigan pranks.
Well, I don't think this was an April Fool's Day prank. I think it was a Halloween prank more. But the Elkton Blue Man,
Oh yeah.
I think that would be kind of.
Never heard of that.
I don't know that it's quite a full episode worth, because there really was nothing to it, but that made like national headlines and stuff. I believe it was in Time magazine. But that one's kind of an interesting one. That was in the late 1950s. It was basically just a couple of high school kids dressed up as aliens. You can look up the photo.
It's funny.
Kind of a, yeah. I don't know if it's a creepy photo. Like it's just a photo from the 1950s, so it kind of throws you off right away. But
That's kind of what I was thinking when you asked what we would do. I was thinking something with aliens, like
Yeah.
a ship landing on top of on the roof of the station, interfering with our signal or something.
yeah, yeah.
Next time we have problems with the station like that, I'm gonna tell Michelle to tell listeners
Yeah.
that.
We could like post a picture of the burn marks from the thrusters up on the roof. And
I think Facebook would be the best place to do that, because people
Nowadays, yeah.
people will be commenting on it and stuff.
it would have
And
to be
sharing it.
like
Yeah,
a link to the website posted, so
right.
people
And
can't-
when you
Actually.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And then like April Fools or
Yeah.
something like that.
yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Now we're gonna have to go back and find if there was any other stories like in the Sanilac County News when it.
Of Dogman or just
Oh, I
in
guess
general?
dog. Yeah. No, now I'm on pranks.
Yeah, now we're talking April Fool's shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like, I don't know, it's definitely an overlooked holiday.
Oh, 100%.
Being in the media in this day and age, you have to be careful with
Oh yeah.
pranks and fake news and stuff like that. But
I was gonna say, I don't know if I would want, like, because of how the media and everything like that is today, I don't know if I would want to do a prank thing.
Right.
Because I would be too worried that it would backfire on me.
yeah, people would get very mad. But something to think about. Well, it's also kind of funny just to think about, like, what Cook's intention, like, what did he think was going to happen when he did it?
Is he still alive?
Yes. Yeah. They actually used the song to raise money for the Humane Society.
That's cool.
Yeah. But that's also part of the reason why I had to read off the lyrics instead of just you guys listening to it. The song is licensed. We found that out this morning.
Okay.
Because we were going to bless your ears with beautiful mandolin and Steve Cook's rich voice, but unfortunately it is licensed.
I mean, we could play it on the radio, but the
Yeah.
podcast
Podcast,
listeners
no.
can't get it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
But, like, I wonder if it was kind of like a situation like with the Candy Factory story where he thought, well, this would be funny, but then he made it too
blew up.
believable. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
And again, I think like
I would be panicking personally. Like, once people started calling and stuff, like,
oh yeah, no, I would be panicking too.
yeah.
I think though, like, obviously it would depend on the tone of their voice and stuff like that. Because it's like, if it's like, this is a disgraceful piece, how dare you, like, fearmonger, then it's like,
Right.
oh, okay, we're not taking any more calls. But if it's some people being like, yeah, no, I saw that, like,
Yeah.
I would honestly be like,
Roll with it for a while.
heck
Yeah.
yeah, tell me
Yeah.
all about it, man.
Right.
I think it gets to a point where you have to make a decision if you're going to do what Steve did or roll with it.
Right.
You know?
And I'm also going back to, like, them hearing it for the first time would have been like, kind of like, especially if they think that they saw something that they can't explain, it would probably be the first time that they feel seen and heard and stuff like that,
Well, especially the guy that saw the Dogman in 1938.
and got attacked by 5 dogs in
Yeah.
the meantime.
That's a long time to go without.
Yeah, 38 to
It's
87.
Almost 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you do see a Dogman, listeners,
Get a picture.
Let
I was
us
going to
know.
say take a picture.
Yeah.
If we happen to find your camera/phone, like, after they find your body, we're sorry, but
We will credit you.
we will credit you.
Yeah. We'll run the photo on April Fool's Day.
So no one will believe that is actually true.
Right.
I'm glad that we got to record again.
Yeah. It's been a little while.
And on that note, I'm Erica.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick. Bye.
Bye.
This has been another edition of Thumbing Through the Archives on WMIC 660 AM and 95.3 FM. Catch this episode in podcast form every Thursday after the program on our website at SaniLacBroadcasting.com. Thumbing Through the Archives, produced by Mike Gallagher, Nick Lean, and Erica Frisbee, with assistance from Catherine Connolly.